you have to be okay with hypothetically being a nobody, like you don't have an identity anymore. My identity, I identified as an elementary school principal. Now I identify as a substitute teacher. Are you okay with that?
Welcome back to the channel. I'm excited to be talking today with Melinda Miller, who also has her own YouTube channel and is one of you. She retired twice. In fact, she was a public educator for over 30 years, principal, and then retired in June of 2023, and then was called back to rescue an elementary school. And so she unretired and worked for another year until retiring in June of this year, 2024. So she has a plethora of knowledge and really great firsthand experience that I wanted to share with you, the audience, as far as what things you need to know beyond the financial planning side to make the most of your retirement. So grateful to have you on today, Melinda.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to dig into all these topics.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes. Tell us a bit of your experience about what things you wish you knew prior to passing the retirement threshold.
Well, I think the first thing that I wish I knew that people liked me and thought that I was doing a good job. Well, no one told me that for 20 years.
Mm,
So, had I known that I was making a difference and that they appreciated my leadership, I might have stayed one more year, which I did go back for one more year. But as an elementary principal, you do not hear the positive things. And so I think be prepared for that honeymoon phase of everybody is going to miss you and regret it and tell you that they love you. And part of that's on them because they're scared of having a new boss. But part of that is I think I was a good person and I think I did a good job. So I wanted to take back my retirement letter a few
mm,
times after
interesting.
hearing all of the accolades and that I was doing a good job. Now, that may not apply to everyone, but yes, I wish I knew how they felt before I left. Another thing is that financially, I knew exactly what my pension was going to be. I retired with a pension and I knew the exact number that I was going to retire with. So my monthly income, I knew what it was going to be replaced with.
Hmm.
And so I didn't have a worry or concern about that until federal taxes. And I had calculated my state taxes pretty close, but I had not calculated my federal taxes as close.
Hmm.
So I regret not being more specific about taxes in that respect. I fixed it and it's okay now. But at the time, I had not calculated federal taxes like I should have.
If I could jump in there, Melinda, what to jump into that a little more, what do you, when it comes to taxes, are you saying you wish you had perhaps withheld a different amount from your monthly pension amount for taxes?
No,
What?
I withheld the correct amount on my end for state taxes,
Okay,
but for federal taxes, that just comes out, and I had not calculated that number correctly.
I see. So you saw a take home number that was different than everything you had
Yeah.
talked about, and you said, "Well, where's my money?" Is that what you're
Yes.
saying? Okay, yeah, that
So
would be a
make
wake up
sure
call.
Yes, so make sure that you know, I mean, I knew there was money coming out,
Sure.
but just make sure you know the exact amount. Having conversations with other retirees, people when they retire, I feel like want to make it sound really great. And I'm going to retire and ride off into the sunset and do all of these things,
Right.
which is ideal. Yes, there's probably people out there that can do that, but they also don't tell you all the little things. And it's kind of scary or weird to ask people. So when you retired, exactly how much were you making and exactly how much are you taking home right now? And people don't want to share that information. I don't want to share that information. Even on my YouTube channel, it's hard. I don't know how much exact I want to share as far as my money, but it would have been helpful. Most teachers would say in the state of Missouri, where I'm from, they make the exact same amount when they retire as they made when they were working.
Okay.
And that's kind of true because your retirement no longer comes out of that check. So now that you're retired, that huge amount of money they were taking out of my check no longer comes out, but federal taxes still come out.
Yes. Yes. Death and taxes.
So
Yep.
Um, I regret I did have credit card debt when I retired, but I had a plan for that. It wasn't like I was retiring with credit card debt and making minimum payments for the rest of my life. If that's the case, don't do it. I had a plan for mine, and so I don't have credit card debt right now. People misinterpret that or only listen to a piece of my videos and assume that I retired with credit card debt, which is true, but I had a plan to pay that off.
Sure.
Um, I think another thing is I just retired because I could. It's 80 and out in the state of Missouri, so it is, your years plus your age is 80 and you can get out and then you make 80% of your retirement. So I just did it because I thought, "Okay, I'm supposed to do this. I'm just gonna do it." I mean, I was exhausted and I needed a change anyway, but um, I just did it, and I wasn't really retiring to something, I was retiring from something. However, I still have a child at home, and I think I've said this in my videos. When I got divorced, I've been divorced for 9 years, so it's just me, my income, and I didn't want my children's lives to change when we went through that divorce. I wanted to be able to provide the same lifestyle for my kids as what they had when I was married,
Sure.
and I've done that. It's exhausting and it's not sustainable, and so I also wish I would have had a conversation with my kids about what retirement is going to look like as far as where I am going to be, as far as I'm going to be at the house, and if there are some financial changes that have to be made.
Mm,
Because there are some. I don't make as much as I was making, and it's just me here at the house. My daughter turned 16, I have car insurance.
yeah.
So there are changes. So having that conversation with my kids about, okay, I'm gonna be home all the time, and they're not used to that. I worked all the time. They had time at home by themselves to decompress, and now every time they walk in the door, I'm here, I think they just roll their eyes.
No, they love you.
I know, well, yeah.
No, that makes sense. It is a complete shift in what you're doing, where you spend your time, and I think that's one thing that the audience might be interested in is suddenly it feels like you just stop. Like you hit the e-brake and now the momentum, the chaos just stops. What was that transition from go 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 to not something on your to-do list all the time?
For me, that part was a blessing in the beginning. So, in my line of work, I needed a break. I was exhausted. I never had time to decompress. I never had time to really think through retirement. I never really had time to literally budget on, like, I budgeted, but I didn't like force myself to look at the numbers all the time. So, for me, hitting that wall, like once you retire, there's a little bit of a honeymoon period. There's the honeymoon period when you tell your employer that you're retiring and everybody finds out.
Yep.
Then, when you're actually done and you have all the retirement parties and you go on the celebratory trip. And for me, it was like a summer. And I know being a teacher, it's a little bit different. So I had a honeymoon period, and then for me, it was August when everybody else was going back to school. I have lived in a school environment since I went to kindergarten, and if I'm 52 years old, the school system itself is all I know. So my body is on the school calendar, everything I have is on the school calendar. So when I hit that wall in August, it was that part was hard because my body's always gone back to school. My heart has
Yeah.
always gone back to school with kids. My heart has always been with teachers. And then that wasn't there, and I was devastated. It was really, really hard for me. Now, I got the chance for a do over because I was offered a chance to go back to work. And it was different, but I was still doing the same things that were exhausting, and I remembered why it was just time, and I wasn't gonna do anything else if I didn't just quit doing what I was doing. So maybe I was quitting and not retiring because maybe a full-time job is in my future someday. When I went through substitute teacher training, the gentleman that was sitting behind me worked in like the oil and gas field and has plenty of money,
Mm.
has been retired for 10 years and has done all the things on his retirement bucket list, but now he's trying to find purpose. And so
Interesting.
he decided he was going to substitute teach, which I just kind of wanted to warn him about that.
Yeah.
But now I am retired again, and I do enjoy subbing or working, whatever people would call it, a couple of days a week. I could see how I could wean myself off of that eventually or go back to work full time in something that is not education related.
The way I like to phrase it for clients is retirement is a work optional lifestyle. Ideally,
Mhm.
right? It's not this, hey, you're no longer needed here, go out to pasture. It's a matter of you've got to find ways to provide purpose. I mean, many people like yourself are retiring in their mid to early 50s and they may have another 50 years ahead of them, you know? And that's a long time. That's the latter half of your life that you got to keep moving to keep moving, and otherwise you're just going to wither away both physically and emotionally, and I've seen that from my own clients. So that's a great contrast for you to bring in to say, you know, you were go go go, and then you had this honeymoon period of being
Mhm.
done, and then a bit of FOMO, it sounds like, for everybody going back, and then you did get a chance to go back, and then you said, oh yeah, I remember now, I'm really ready to pull the trigger and be out of here. So that's a cool unique angle that most people may not have, is the opportunity to get both sides, to get to go out and then get to go back in and then say, "Yeah, I'm ready to go out again."
Yeah,
That's
I
neat.
don't think I want to go back to being a principal, but I love substitute teaching. Now, another thing is if you retire from a prestigious job or a job that you're perceived to have power and you like that, being a principal is a job that people see me as a leader or in like a prestigious position or something. I didn't feel like I needed that. I don't need the accolades. I don't need that type of celebration or whatever. But you have to be okay with now hypothetically being a nobody. Like you don't have an identity anymore.
Yeah.
And my identity, I identified as an elementary school principal. Now I identify as a substitute teacher. Are you okay with that?
Mm.
People have asked me how I feel about that. They're like, you were a principal and now you're a substitute teacher. And I'm like, yes, I love it. I'm not in charge of anybody. I'm not the boss of anything. I don't have to take work home, and the kids are just funny, but it's a different role. I was an elementary principal and I've only been substitute teaching in high school. So I have found something that's a little similar yet different that
Mhm.
I enjoy right now. And I enjoy the kids. I mean, they're fun and they're funny when you're not the principal and you don't have to like be mean all the time.
Sure. So you found a really neat way to still be involved in the atmosphere that you're familiar with, that you're good
Mhm.
at, while trimming a lot of the things you didn't like about the job, it sounds like,
Right.
right? Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I mean, as you look at your peers and other people that have retired, what are some ways that you've found that they have navigated this shift of maybe they weren't a principal and gone to substitute teacher, but could be any industry or job profession? And what are some ways you've seen them navigate the transition to still having a reason to get out of bed and fulfilling their own purpose on a daily basis?
It's actually so funny that you bring that up because I was thinking about that. People give me a really hard time about retiring at 52, and they talk about how I'm the youngest retired person that they know. But that's all I've known in Missouri is if you start school, if you start teaching right out of college, you're 52 or 53 when you can retire.
Right.
Most people that I know that have retired from education have a plan and go right back into something else. That has been my experience. I don't know that many people who have retired and stayed retired, or they've retired, done what I've done, gone back a little bit, and then retire again. So it's like that gradual release of routine and responsibility, and not just that run your car right into a wall retirement, which is kind of, I
Yeah.
think, what I felt like I did.
Maybe calling out the obvious, another way you fill your time and perhaps have a sense of purpose is you do YouTube. right? You have your own YouTube channel.
I
And for
do.
anyone watching, I encourage you to go check out her channel because she talks about a lot of great topics that I can't speak to from personal experience, which is why she's with us today. But you find joy in sharing your expertise, sharing your firsthand experience about what am I doing today, or how do I plan for holiday shopping, or what's a budget look like in retirement, and retirement regrets and such. These are the things that you're finding joy in broadcasting out. And as I'm learning, as I'm doing YouTube content as well, it's not as simple as turning on the camera. There's a lot of work behind the scenes.
Well, I feel like have been serving people again. So, as a public educator, you're serving people your whole life. And so, I wanted to find a way to still serve people on my own terms. Now, a lot of
Mm,
people are going to volunteer, get more involved with their church, volunteer at dog shelters, the Ronald McDonald House, the Convoy of Hope. Their headquarters is here in Springfield, and I might do those things eventually. I just know my personality, and I would be the president of the Convoy of Hope, or I would be in charge of every committee at church, and volunteering would become another job for me. Because when
right.
people ask, well, what are you doing this weekend? Like they know I'm retired. So what am I going to say? So it's like, well, I'm doing nothing, but I don't want to do that. And I could, when I could have said, well, I have to work. I can't do that. Or I'm getting caught up on stuff. Now it's like, I can't really say that because I'm retired.
How do you speak to that when people ask, what are you doing? And whereas you may have, for the past couple decades, had a readily available answer based on your routine, now it's not there. What kind of ways do you find that you're responding to that?
Well, I still struggle with that one because, like I said, my social life and level of involvement and extrovertedness before I retired was off the charts. There was no slowing down, it was rapid fire all the time. So, what I found is since a lot of my friends still work, I don't have the invitations like what I used to have, so there's not gonna be as many times that you have to say no or decide if you want to do something. So a
Mm,
lot of times, if it's been a couple of weeks and I haven't been out with the girls or done something like that, I'll call them up. But as far as what am I doing, I also still have a daughter at home, and sometimes I can use that as an excuse, and other times it's true that we have stuff going on. So I'm able to put my family first actually better than what I was doing. So I feel like spending my time with my kids. For example, my oldest daughter is in college and tomorrow's her birthday.
so fun.
And she called this morning and I was able to help her work through the voting process. The day that we're recording this is the national election day, and she's a first time voter.
Oh, cool.
So I was available to talk her through all of that. Then she decided randomly she wants to come home tonight. So I'm available to cook dinner and do all the things that I couldn't do for all of the years that I was working. So I feel better about canceling plans for my girls or scheduling things with the girls and doing that. I think that when you're retired, you'll find that there's not as many invitations to socialize, but there's a bazillion invitations to volunteer or do all of that kind of stuff. Those people will take advantage, not in a bad way, but those
Sure.
people will take advantage of your free time.
Sure. So the audience has been warned.
Yes, exactly.
Speaking of your daughter being able to come back on a whim, and you're there for her, you're able to provide her dinner. What things are you finding that you're able to invest more time in that you didn't before?
Projects don't have a weekend deadline. When you're
Mm,
working and you start a project, you have a time frame and you think, okay, I need to get this project done. I'm going to start Friday night. It has to be done Sunday. Well, in retirement, your projects, you can drag them out however long you want to drag them out.
for better or worse, right?
Yeah. Mornings, I still get up and get ready and act like I have plans for the day, and I don't lounge around in my pajamas. I don't lounge around on the couch. I don't sit and watch TV all the time. I do watch TikTok or social media and stuff like that. I have stopped a lot of that because it encourages you to buy the latest thing. But I do try to keep up with people on Facebook or so keep up with other people and remembering the significant things that they have in their lives. But my mornings are so much nicer. I can go to Sam's or to the grocery store during the not busy hours.
Yeah,
And I know
definitely.
I sound like a grandma when I say that. I go to bed early just because I'm used to that, but like you don't really have to. The Chiefs played last night. I'm a huge Chiefs fan. So I could stay up late and watch the Chiefs and not feel like, oh, I have to go to work in the morning. So that was
Yep.
awesome. And I think, what are you going to do with the mental space that you used in your work? Like, what's your mind going to be doing? Because I planned for, I mean, I say catastrophe every day, but there every day in my job you had no idea what was going to happen on those days. And there's something called secondary trauma, and it's when you witness traumatic situations. And throughout 30 years in public education, I've witnessed a lot of traumatic situations and been a part of that. And how do you decompress from that?
Mm.
So your body and your mind are just going to relax from those things. So having the mental space to make decisions and plan things and talk to you and talk about financial planning, even though I should have done it a long time ago. Now I have time and I'm exploring that or I'm looking into those things.
I really appreciate you giving these insights to the audience because many of them are probably just a few years behind you and trying to make sure that they're checking off the boxes as they cross the threshold. So we'll be continue to have conversations like this, but please stay tuned and subscribe if you'd like to see additional interviews because our next conversations will dive into a deeper level, such as what does a morning routine look like and what are some ideas that Melinda's integrated into her life? What are some other things that she wished that she may have done before retiring? What are some things that she wished she had actually checked off her list before crossing the threshold? And mistakes that she's made or others have perhaps made that she wished she had not done. So please stay tuned and like the video if you learned anything that helped you be better prepared for your retirement. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.